咱嘅叫做 Mother's Day 嚟，之所以我喺特別講一個 message regarding to mother。
Today's as Mother Day, as we celebrate Mother's Day, I would like to speak to you a message about our mothers.
我哋咪是改變世代這個老母。
My topic for today is a mother who changed her generation.
喺聖經裏面有兩個真正偉大嘅老母。
In the Bible, there are two mothers who are really good that were recorded.
這個是摩西老母約基別。
First is the mother of Moses, Jochebed,
這個是約撒母耳嘅老母哈娜。
and the other one is the mother of Samuel, Hannah.
這兩個老母個真正相像。
And there are a lot of similarities between these two mothers.
Number one，
The first,
這兩個老母都是活在一個真正歹嘅環境嘅裏面。
both of them lived in a very bad environment.
約基別就是摩西老母。
Jochebed was the mother of Moses.
等佢時間以後，
After she gave birth,
面對 Pharaoh 嘅 persecution，
she met the persecution of Pharaoh.
係將囊中嘅 baby 大波 baby 天地海嘅裏面。
Pharaoh wanted to slay every male child that was born during that time. They wanted them to be thrown into the water.
哈娜是撒母耳嘅老母，
Hannah is the mother of Samuel.
呢個 background 是士書這個 judge 嘅點證。
She was living among the time of the judges.
歷一照20個則是真正出名嘅一句話。
This verse found in Judges chapter 21, verse 25 is a very well-known statement.
呢個時代以色列無王，大家人千載創大志。
In those days, Israel had no king. Everybody did as they saw fit.
所以士書時代是戰亂無處數嘅時代。
So during the time of the judges, Israel was very chaotic. There was no order there.
這兩個老母喺這個時代生了兩個家出嚟。
And in these times, these two mothers gave birth to two sons.
Number two，
Number two,
這兩個老母是只有直接真短嘅時間及囡仔做一個。
these two mothers only had a very limited amount of time that they spent with their child.
咱就有摩西老母，後來就做摩西叫做奶媽。
We know that Moses' mom became the wet nurse for Moses.
摩西老母是全世界這個老母好嫁嘅囡仔隻連過係受聖經嘅人。
Moses' mom, Jochebed, was the very first and probably the only mom in this whole world who nursed her own child and yet got paid for it.
這是上帝真奇妙嘅安排。
This was an amazing arrangement made by the Lord.
當這囡仔冇個隻連以後，
After the child was weaned from breastfeeding,
將這個 baby 生去王宮嘅裏面交予法老嘅查某囝。
and Moses was returned back to the temple for
Not the temple, the palace.
for the palace for Pharaoh's daughter to raise.
撒母嘅老母哈娜，
The mother of Samuel, Hannah,
當這囡仔冇個隻年以後，就生去 temple 裏面侍奉上帝。
after she weaned Samuel, she gave him back to the temple for the Lord.
Imagine 這個囡仔出世到隻年，到冇個隻年，差不多只有3-4年嘅時間啦啲啊。
From the time the child is born until the time the child is being weaned from breastfeeding, it's only about 3-4 years.
喺3-4年嘅中間，
In these 3-4 years,
而將這個囡仔拍一個真正好嘅 foundation。
they set up a very good foundation for their child.
結果這兩個囡仔一生冇離開上帝。
And from that time on, these two child never departed from the Lord. Number three,
這兩個老母都是改變時代嘅老母，
these two mothers changed the times that they lived in
因為伊生了兩個囝，
because they gave birth to these two boys,
摩西及撒母耳。
Moses and Samuel.
這兩個人是改變歷史嘅偉人。
And these two men changed history.
無安呢個係老母，無安嘅囝出嚟。
If there were no God-fearing mothers like them, there would be no son like these.
這個世界偉大嘅老母其實真多。
Of course, in this world, there are a lot of great moms.
你是偉大嘅老母，
You are great moms.
我老母是偉大嘅老母。
My mom is a great mom.
佢對家庭嘅犧牲
And the sacrifices that she did for my
是
family
真正偉大。
was really so great.
但是
But
這個世界冇真最敬虔嘅老母。
there are a lot of mothers here. There are only few mothers who are really pious towards the Lord.
It's a godly mother.
They are not really godly
We
mothers.
need more godly mother than great mother.
We need more godly mothers than great mothers.
因為只有敬虔嘅老母有能改變這個世代。
Because only godly mothers can change the world.
偉大嘅老母只係改變你家嘅家庭哪啲啊？
Great mothers only change the families that they're managing.
哈娜
Hannah
這是個偉敬虔嘅老母。
was a mother who was truly
今日是
godly.
Mother's Day，
Today's Mother's Day.
they will learn from Hannah
Let's learn from Hannah
how to become a godly mother.
how to become a godly mother.
用晒角度嚟訴說這
I'd
個
like
人
to
物。
look at it from 3 different perspectives.
Number one，
First,
佢是個敬虔嘅女主，
she was a godly woman.
佢是個敬虔嘅妻子，
She was a godly wife
是個敬虔嘅男母
and。a godly mother.
你記住，你嘅生命嘅男冇敬虔，
If you're not godly in your life,
你嗱結婚你就唔是敬虔嘅太太，
after you get married, you will not become a godly wife.
你嗱唔是敬虔嘅太太，
If you're not a godly
咁
wife,
你做男母嘅時陣，
when you become a mother,
你就唔是敬虔嘅男母。
you will not become a godly mother.
Back to the basics。
Let's go back to the
但
basics.
係做一個敬虔嘅女主開始
Let's。start with becoming a godly woman.
我嗱講係敬虔嘅女主，
When I say you are a godly woman,
就講到以及華人嘅 relationship 呢個關係。
I'd like to talk about your relationships with other people.
哈拿嘅意思是恩典，
Hannah's meaning is grace.
這個人是蒙恩嘅人。
This person was filled with grace.
你嗱看這個 Samuel chapter 1。
If you are to read Samuel chapter
你
1,
睇下哈拿有一個真早聽伊嘅丈夫叫做以利加啦，
Hannah had a very loving husband, Elkanah.
但係真可惜，
But sad to say,
哈拿是未事件啦。
Hannah had no child.
所以為這個原因，
But because of this reason,
伊嘅丈夫冇辦法，嗰請另外一個水兒起嚟。
her husband had no choice but to get a second wife.
這個女嘅，這個另外一個水兒及以利加啦，是了是男個是女，
And that second wife had both sons and daughters.
但係聖經明明記載這樣
But the
地
Bible clearly recorded
以利加啦仍然真聽哈拿，
Elkanah really loved Hannah,
雖然你未是囝，
although she had no
但
child.
是我仍然真聽你。
But he continued to love her.
聖經講，伊特擺嗱後面嘅在小號哈拿能被 double portion。
Whenever he gives out sacrifices or gives out things, he would give double portion for Hannah.
是表明這個丈夫聽哈拿，比這個聽這個加一倍 double portion。
It was a symbolism of how much he loved Hannah, much more than his second wife.
結果就產生比較，
So there came a comparison.
結果就比較還價，
So there came quarrel.
結果就彎刀。
So there's jealousy.
聖經明明記載，
The Bible clearly recorded
哈拿這個人是真正問題怪，問題溫順，
Hannah was a very gentle woman.
所以無夠對手嚟拍。
So she did not fight with the other one.
但係聖經記載一樣真特別嘅代志，
But the Bible recorded something very unique,
哈拿從來唔不及另外一個女嘅還價，
that she never quarreled with the second wife.
哈拿從來唔把伊嘅丈夫發生氣。
And she never got angry with her husband.
都到門對嘅時陣，
Whenever she had a
流
problem,
墨西嘅時
she
陣，
would, whenever she
心內
shed
真憂愁嘅
tears,
時陣，
whenever she's in distress,
哈拿只有一條路，
she only had one way to
佢
go.
走去上帝嘅頭前，
She would come before the Lord.
佢哭，
She would go there and weep
佢祈禱。
and to pray.
你講第一章第17，
Look at chapter 1, verse 10.
哈拿心內愁苦，痛痛哀求，祈禱耶和華。
In her deep anguish, Hannah prayed to the Lord, weeping bitterly.
你知有幾多呢？
How did she pray?
用上帝啊，萬軍耶和華啊，你若照顧婢女嘅課程，過了未記人嘅婢女，使我一個囝，我這個歸世人歸予耶和華，無用剃度刀剃伊嘅頭。
And she made this vow, saying, Lord Almighty, if you will only look on your servant's misery and remember me, and not forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be used on his head.
等佢到困難嘅時陣，
So when you're in the midst of
伊唔
difficulties,
自己要個人還價，
she did not fight with
伊
other
唔自己
people.
生氣，
She did not get
伊
angry.
自己祈禱，
She prayed.
以及上帝講話：
She spoke to the
上
Lord.
帝啊，
Said,
你
Lord,
若我一個囝，
if you provide to me
我
a
將這
son,
個囝生給你。
I will give back this son to you.
但係聖經講一項真特別嘅代志，
But the Bible recorded something very
當伊
special.
祈禱嘅時陣。
After when she was praying,
多啊，多這是以利多啊，伫聖殿嘅裏
the
面，
great high priest Eli was there,
正講伊注意哈拿嘅嘴，
and he noticed Hannah's mouth.
為什麼呢？
Why?
原來哈拿祈禱嘅時陣，
Because when Hannah was praying,
是心中祈禱無出聲，
she was praying in her heart, and she was making a silent prayer.
嘴會點動，
Of course, her mouth was moving.
但是無聲音出嚟。
There was no sound coming out. It wasn't audible.
以利拿着伊追焦啦，
And Eli thought that she was drunk,
所以佢講：為什麼你追焦
and he accused her of being drunk.
？Imagine
Just
你
imagine
真憂愁嘅時陣，
you're in your anguish,
有人講：今日你佢追焦，
and you're being accused of being a drunk.
以呢一個戰爭河多嘅這事，
Eli was a very not very good, a careless priest.
而令佢驚啲聖殿犯罪，家己唔知啊。
He didn't know that he wasn't aware that his two sons were committing sins inside the temple.
哈拿祈禱，
Hannah was praying.
伊拿就要追究。
He thought that she was drunk.
Imagine，
Just imagine,
你是哈拿，
you're Hannah.
有人誤解你 misunderstood 你，
People were doubting you and misunderstood you.
你要創啥？
What would you do?
我跟你講哦，咱就企前面，
We'd probably get angry.
咱就大聲話，
We'd probably shout.
流目屎，
We'd probably cry.
冤枉關，冤枉
And you'd
關。
say, you're accusing me falsely.
我看到真多啊，
I've seen so many
少我講一句話，
that they have only received a small word
擋袂掉咯
and，they can't bear it
乜
anymore.
鬥東鬥西咯。
They would tell it to other people.
但係哈拿唔是安尼，
Hannah wasn't like
雖
that.
然多這是 misunderstood 的，
Even though she was misunderstood by the high
而
priest,
就講咧，
you know how she
你
responded?
講主啊，唔是安尼啊
Not，so, my Lord, she
我係
said.
心內受苦嘅人
I'm
啊，
a woman who is deeply
我
troubled.
唔不啉酒
I've
啊。
never been drinking wine or beer.
我哋上帝頭前傾心吐意啊！
I was just pouring out my soul to the Lord.
佢講一句話，
And she said one more
講
thing.
唔通誇我一個無正經嘅女主啊
Don't！take your servant for a wicked woman.
我哋注意一句話
I'd like you to take note of this
嗬，哈
statement.
拿講我唔是無正經嘅女主哦。
Hannah was saying, I am not a wicked woman.
為什麼講一句話呢
Why did she have to make this statement?
？Let me explain to you。
Let me explain this to you.
哈拿嘅時代是數數嘅時代，
During the time of Hannah, it was the time of the judges.
數數時代是大家人千差創大
And
嘅
during
時
that
代，
time, everybody did whatever they wanted.
愛創什麼就創什麼，
They just do whatever they wanted.
所以戰爭問題亂。
So it was very chaotic.
有人喺聖所裏面啉酒，
There are people who get drunk inside the temple.
有人喺聖所裏面醉酒。
And there are people who are drinking there
有人
inside
喺
the
聖殿
temple.
裏面犯奸淫。
And there are those who fornicate inside the temple.
你睇第一章22節，
Just look at chapter 2, verse 22.
有人嘅這事
There are two priests.
喺聖所裏面及聖殿裏面，好連人犯奸淫。
There were two priests who were committing fornication with the women there outside the temple, within the temple.
以利是大這事，
Eli was the high priest.
用現在話嚟解釋嘅是教會嘅主理牧師。
Just like if you were to put it in modern times, he's the senior pastor of the church.
二零嘅驚
His two sons
是這事，
were priests.
用現在話嚟解釋，
And if you are to use today's term,
你係 associate pastor。
they were associate pastors.
好連人
The women,
就是啲教會嘅 usher。
these women were probably ushers inside the church.
Imagine
Just imagine,
pastor 及 usher 犯奸淫喺教會裏面，
the pastor and the ushers were committing fornication inside the church.
呢就是當時數數時代很亂嘅情況。
That was exactly what was happening during the time of the judges. That's how chaotic it was.
所以哈拿講。
So Hannah said,
唔通誇我一個無正經好人哦，我唔
don't
是
look
哦。
at me as if I was a wicked woman.
姊妹，
Dear sisters,
你要做一個敬虔嘅太太，
do you want to be a godly wife?
你需要帶上一個敬虔嘅女主。
You need to become a godly woman.
什麼叫敬虔嘅女主
What do we mean when we say a godly woman?
？First Timothy chapter 2 verse 9 and 10。
1 Timothy chapter 2 verses 9 and
我哋
10
就有什麼叫敬虔嘅女主？
shows us what kind of a woman is a godly woman.
第9節
Verse 9
是這人嘅 appearance 嘅外表，
talks about our outward appearance. I also want the women to dress modestly with decency and propriety, adorning themselves not with elaborate hairstyles or gold or pearls or expensive clothes.
這是外表。
This talks about your outward
第
appearance.
10節
Verse 10
是行為，
about their behavior, but with good deeds appropriate for women who profess to worship God.
姊妹，
Your sisters,
咱無反對姊妹穿較水入嚟，
we are not opposed to women dressing beautifully
咱
coming
無
to the
反
church.
對。
We are not opposed.
姊妹多淡薄求知連啊耳教入
The
嚟，
women would adorn themselves with some jewelry,
但是
but
唔免街頭。
don't overdo it.
你若多一個大門入嚟屋企，
It's okay for you to wear a diamond ring.
唔免十隻枕頭當中大門。
You don't have to have 10 diamond rings on your 10 fingers.
You want to show off？
You do want to show off.
你多一個鏈啊入嚟
You can wear a necklace.
，OK。
It's okay.
唔免將全嘅當中鏈啊多啲眼觀
You
入
don't have
嚟。
to bring all your necklaces with you.
你若去台灣哦
If，you go to Taiwan,
你若結婚嘅人哦，
those who are getting married,
將囊中嘅劍囊中包喺頷冠嘅裏面。
they'll place all their gold, all their jewelries on their neck.
I'm not joke, I'm not joke.
I'm
It's
not
true.
joking.
我親眼看到，
I've seen it with my own
囊中
eyes.
連啊啲頷冠裏面，
All the necklaces that they have, they
你
will
睇
wear it.
順時安尼行，
They would walk in hunched back
因為 heavy duty 啊，
because it's very heavy.
你教會冇開明眼你。
Of course, we don't need to be like that inside a church.
第9節
Verse 9
講嗰隻好年人，
talks about the women,
呢特別講要呢個情策，呢個情策。
especially with the way they dress.
漢門聖經嘅英文我翻譯小夸無省。
There are slight differences between the Chinese translation and the English
英
version.
文就講，I also want the women to dress modestly，
English tells us to tells the women to dress modestly,
都好就好。
just right.
漢文就講正派嘅衫，
And in Chinese, it says to dress properly.
你咪就要什麼叫做正派嘅衫？
When we speak about dressing properly, what do we mean?
真簡單嘅啦，
It's very easy.
是咩？
Dear sisters,
當你穿前一衫嘅時陣，
when you wear these clothes,
無論什麼樣嘅衫，
no matter what kind of clothes it
唔
is,
是即係呢嘅衫出賣呢個線仔好難看。
it's not the clothes that will show off your body to the world to see.
我 repeat，
I'm going to repeat myself.
咱敬虔嘅女主，
If you're a godly woman,
咱穿嘅衫，
the clothes that we
呢
wear,
個 purpose。
your purpose,
唔是為咗好呢衫，將呢線褲顯好難看。
it's not to show off your physique to other people.
咱嘅衫唔是按呢個嘅意思。
That's not the purpose for our clothes.
現在時陣，
Many times,
點解嚟女嘅？
these women,
愛用呢個線仔嚟吸引男嘅。
they would like to use their body, their physique to attract other
我
people.
同你講，
I tell you this,
男嗱因為呢個線仔嚟好吸引，
if people become attracted to your body,
而唔是聽你，
they don't love you.
而是聽你嘅 body。
They love your body.
所以記住，
Just
當
remember,
你追老母以後，
after you become a mother,
當你追得阿媽以後，
or after you become a
呢個
grandmother,
線仔
your
90%
physique,
嘅人都改變
your body, your physique will change.
90%。
90% of
我
it
都
will
唔敢
change.
講
Of
100%，
course, I dare not say
一
100%.
定有人係笑佢啩。
Of course, some people will get angry with me.
本來是三粒，立時三粒，
So you have a very sexy body
跟
before,
住石撥，
and it will become square.
安尼你硬就斜白人咧啦
Then。your husband will look for other women
因為 you looking for the body，唔是 looking for you。
because they're just looking at the body, they're not looking for you.
現今即個世界
Today in this world,
真問題奇怪，
it's very strange.
囊中嘅衫，
All the clothes,
最貴嘅衫，
the most expensive clothes,
就是將線仔顯出好難看嘅衫，
are the clothes that reveals more flesh.
幾十千嘅衫，
Those that cost tens of thousands.
都是包無夠嘅衫。
There are clothes that have there are dresses that don't have enough clothes.
I don't understand。
I don't understand.
每很貴嘅衫都無夠包，
You buy a clothes that is so expensive, but the material is lacking.
這個是世界末世嘅現象。
This is the sign of the end times.
咁你 designer
Those designer,
是喺即係如果將自己嘅衫將線褲顯出嚟，
they want the women to flaunt their bodies by wearing their
但係
clothes.
聖經唔是這個意思。
But the Bible does not want us to do that.
人頭一年衫
The very first dress that we have
是喺創世記嘅裏面，
was in the book of Genesis.
人犯罪以後，
After people sinned,
你咁嘅見笑，
they felt ashamed.
用腳追殺 cover 架嘅 body，
They covered their body with leaves.
但是現在
Today,
人嚟嚟拿茶，
today we are
你哋
deteriorating.
摩羅嘅 stand 嚟嚟拿嘅，
Our moral standard is decaying.
但是 expose 你嘅線褲
We
難看，
expose our bodies for people to see.
這個叫末世。
This is the end times.
這個敬虔好年
A
人，
godly woman,
唔是用這個衫，這個顯出呢個線褲，
you don't use your clothes to show off your physique.
唔係是這個 appearance。
Not only do we talk about appearance,
40則講交易，有一個叫做 good deed，一個好嘅行為，
verse 10 talks about the good deeds, your behavior.
外交及裏面都是真正敬虔。
That you should be godly both outside and inside.
對下那講，
So Hannah said,
唔通看我是 wicked women，我唔是，
don't mistake your servant as a wicked woman.
係咪 godly women？
I'm a godly person.
求上帝幫助你。
May the Lord help us.
你若冇一個聖潔嘅生命，
If you don't lead a holy life,
你無法做出一個聖潔嘅太太。
you cannot be a holy wife.
So number two，
Number 2,
咱講一個 godly
we
wife。
talk about
我
becoming
哋
a
講到
godly wife.
godly wife，講到依個俾 husband 嘅 relationship。
And here we talk about her relationship with her husband.
哈娜是個真正好嘅太太，
Hannah was a very good wife.
依個俾丈夫真正好嘅 relationship。
She had a very good relationship with her husband.
丈夫真疼伊，
And her husband loved her very much.
但可能你心內應該有一個問題，
So in your heart, you probably have this question.
牧師，你若真疼伊，敢若娶水伊啊？
If he truly loves her, why did he take another wife?
原因只有一個，
There's only one reason.
因為哈拿無時間。
Because Hannah cannot bear a child.
你甲你死了，牽手以後，
After being married,
一年、
1 year,
兩年、
2 years,
三年、
3 years,
四年，
4 years,
就是無要多先。
she can't get pregnant.
啊，你咪做咧？
What do we do?
你記得當時嘅 background 是
You have to remember, during that background,
everyone did as they saw fit。
everybody did as they saw fit.
人真自由，真自由，
They had too much
愛
freedom.
創什麼就創什麼。
They do whatever they wanted to do.
這個丈夫
This husband
看這個太太無時間，
saw that his wife was barren.
啊，你咪做咧？
So what did he do?
你若講無事，我都無 descendant 咯，
If she does not bear any child, then I'll have no descendants.
所以無法。
So he cannot do anything.
你坐這個水椅嚟時
So he
間，
took for himself another wife.
所以這個路唔是聽，
So it's not for love.
這個是為咗時間。
It's for childbearing.
雖然是安尼，
Even though that was the case.
但係聖經常常講一項代志。
But the Bible pointed out
當
something.
以利家來獻祭嘅時陣，
Well, Elkanah was there to offer
伊係將
sacrifices.
伊嘅祭物求伊第二嘅太太，就是這個比利啦，及比利啦所事件啦。
He would give portions of the meat to his wife Peninnah and to all her sons and daughters.
平呢就是伊嘅水兒，
Peninnah was the second wife.
但是
But
嚟到哈拿嘅時陣
for Hannah,
，double portion，
he would give a double
意思
portion.
講我仍然聽你兩倍，OK？
Because I love you twice as much.
even 到你冇事嘅，
Even though you have no
我
child.
有見，I still love you。
It's okay. I
And
still
more
love
than
you.
more than 這個 family，
And I
OK？
love you much more than my second wife.
但是第七節你嗰個 7，
But in verse 7,
特你都是 and every year。
it happened every year.
可見以利家啦對哈拿聽冇改變，
So it means that his love for Hannah never changed.
但係雖然是安尼，
Even though that was the case,
哈拿心內真要求。
Hannah was very distressed.
有一擺，
One time,
哈拿幾好，
Hannah was weeping,
丈夫看到，
and the husband saw her.
你講伊講什麼？
And what did she say?
伊講
He
哈
say,
拿哈拿，今日你俾孝啊，今日你未食飯啊，今日你要求啊，有掛這個丈夫，咁冇俾10個家較好
her
嘛？
husband Elkanah would say to her, Hannah, why are you weeping? Why don't you eat? Why are you downhearted? Don't I mean more to you than 10 sons?
可見伊個丈夫實在聽伊，
It just shows how much he truly loved
但係
his wife.
嚟到現實嘅情況嘅裏面，
But if you are to look at reality,
伊無法，
can't do
伊
anything
走去坐水椅。
because he took for himself a second wife.
即係人看到一個真重要嘅代志，
Here it shows that something very important.
太太
The wife,
冇這個丈夫，有當真正查罪，你真正嘅滿足。
and there's no husband in the world that can satisfy you 100%.
無論你嘅丈夫羅聽你，
No matter how much your husband loves you,
我同你講，
I'm going to tell you
冇
this.
這個丈夫，
No, there's no husband
有
in this
當
world
完全了解你、滿足你一切需要。
that can completely understand and completely satisfy your needs.
哈拿歸面要求，
Hannah was despaired.
什麼上呢要求無佢哋就係喎，
Do you know when your despair will be gone?
等於嚟到上帝頭整嘅時陣，
When you come before the Lord.
哈拿嚟到主啊頭整祈
Hannah
禱，
came before the Lord and
將佢
prayed.
們對交到上帝嘅裏
And she
面。
entrusted her problem to the Lord.
聖經講一句真特別嘅話，
The Bible says something very unique.
祈禱了以後。
After praying,
Then he went her way and ate something.
then she went her way and ate something.
And then he no longer downcast.
Then her face was no longer
伊
downcast.
冇個要求咯，
She's no longer
因
sad
為上帝查咗伊唯一真正嘅滿足。
because God became her
太
satisfaction.
太啊，太太啊，
Dear wife,
唔當將你家己完全全 entrusted to your husband.
don't entrust yourself 100% completely to your husband.
Sooner or later，
Sooner or later,
你就一你未得到你嘅滿足啦。
he will not satisfy you
因為 only God can be your satisfied。
because only God can be your true
好
satisfaction.
兩個第二你要注意，
There are two things that we need to
Number
remember.
one.
The first,
這個世界冇一個百分嘅配偶你嘅 spouse。
there is no 100% perfect spouse in this world.
你冇一個100分嘅丈夫
You cannot find a perfect husband.
，of course，你又唔
course.
是100分嘅太太。
Of course, you too cannot be a perfect
Number
wife.
two.
Number two,
另外一半永遠冇你完整。
the other half will never be able to complete you.
只有上帝。
Only God can
咱
complete
常
you.
常講一句話講唔到嘅
We often make a wrong statement.
，my better half，my
We always say, my better half.
better half。
We always call our spouse our
這
better
個
half.
話是幾啊講呢嘅啊？
This is a false
做
statement.
咩 better half？做咩 better？my
How is she truly better?
worst half。
My worst half.
但是咱嘅安尼講呢嘅啊，
That's how we say. That's our expression.
但是 in reality，
But in reality,
你嘅丈夫唔是你嘅一半，
your husband isn't your half.
你嘅太太又唔是你嘅一半。
Your wife cannot be your half.
You know why？
You know why?
因為你本身已經是完全。
Because are you truly perfect?
當上帝創造你嘅時陣
When God created you,
，you are complete，you
you are complete.
are mature。
You are mature.
你是男嘅，
You are male.
你是女嘅，
You are female.
你係 complete。
You're complete.
你無所別人查做你係 complete，
You don't need other people to complete you.
你是100分，伊係100分。
You're already complete. You're only the other person is also complete.
你覺得嗰啲近超啊？
Then why do I need to get married?
你近超，你唔是 complete，你變咗 overflow。
When you marry, you don't become complete. You overflow.
別人互你生命確實 overflow 起來，叫
You
做
get married
福杯滿溢。
You get married because you want the other person to fill your life to overflow.
請你記得，
Remember,
唔通借別人查做你係 complete，
don't look for other people to complete you.
因為只有上帝是你唯一得到滿足嘅上帝。
Because only God can completely satisfy
好嘅
you.
太太，
A good wife, a godly wife.
嗱，這段聖經嘅裏面，你講 chapter 1嘅裏面，
If you are to look at 1 Samuel chapter
你
1,
嗰度有兩個太太，好似
we see two wives.
一個是 Hannah，
One is Hannah,
一個是比利娜。
or the other is Peninnah.
其實聖經將這後嚟人將一個比較啊。
The Bible made a comparison between these two persons.
Hannah冇見啦，
Hannah had no child.
比利娜有真最見啦，
Peninnah had many
但
children.
是比利娜是個冇敬虔嘅太太。
But Peninnah wasn't a godly wife.
為什麼你講呢？
Why do I say that?
上帝將兒子賜予伊，
God gave her children.
兒子是上帝所賜嘅恩典。
Children are a blessing, are blessings from the Lord.
為什麼上帝將恩典賜予你？
Why did the Lord give her that blessing?
聖經裏面有一個真重嘅 principle。
There's a very important principle in the Bible.
什麼時候上帝祝福你？
When the Lord blessed you,
上帝愛你就最別人嘅祝福。
God wants you to use that blessing to bless other people.
So you are the channel of blessing to others。
You become a channel of blessing for others.
比利娜有真最見啦，
Peninnah had many child.
但是伊冇就最別人嘅祝福，
She had many children, but she never became a blessing for other
因為
people.
有見啦，
When she had a child,
伊用見啦嚟對付 Hannah，
and she used that child to mock the other person,
驕傲。
she became proud.
伊媽將上帝有啲 blessing，
Imagine God gave you
有
blessings.
啲有子，
God gave you
Holy
financial
Holy
capabilities, gave you children.
唔是有啲驕
It's
傲，
not for you to become proud.
有啲謙卑
It's，for you to become humble.
是你幫襯別人嘅
For
需
you
要
to。be able to help the needs of other
但係
people.
比利娜唔是安尼，
But Peninnah wasn't like
伊用
that.
上帝嘅 blessing 嚟去對付別人，
She used the blessings of the Lord to mock other
因
people.
為是 ungodly woman，
Because she was an ungodly woman.
所以是 ungodly wife。
So she became an ungodly wife.
講安尼牧師，你
Said,
話
Pastor,
比利娜看到上帝無好意思嘅，就對哈娜最對頭大激動意，愛互伊受氣。
verse 6 tells us that because the Lord had closed Hannah's womb, her rival kept provoking her in order to irritate her.
所以叫做幫襯人，
May the Lord help
呢
us.
是 ungodly women 嘅 action。
This is an action of an ungodly woman.
什麼叫 godly women？
What do you do when
Naman
you're a
the
godly
godly
woman?
wife.
What do you do when you're a
其
godly
實
wife?
真簡單嘅啦。
It's very simple.
所謂敬虔哦，是生命中間有上帝，以上帝就做呢個上帝嘅人，叫做敬虔嘅人。
A godly person is a person who has God in his life and who lets God be God.
等陣大家你注意哦，
There are two things that we
Number
need
one.
to take note.
你嘅生命裡面有神，
There's God in your life.
所以呢，近朝騎什麼人呢？
When you are to marry, whom do you look for?
騎一關生命有上帝嘅人
Look
，OK？
for somebody whose life is filled with God.
騎丈夫是安尼，
Look for a husband like
騎
that.
太太是安尼。
Look for a wife that is
你若
like
一個
that.
生命裡無上帝嘅人，
If you find somebody whose life is not filled with
你
God,
是家己多你家己面對
you're
嚟。
bringing misery upon your
唔
own life.
當唔當埋灣呢個上帝，don't bring your God，OK？
Don't blame your God.
This is your own mistake。
This is your own mistake.
但是無夠吧？
But that's not enough.
有人有上帝，
There are people who have God in their
但
life.
是 net God be God。
but they need to let God be God.
有人有上帝，但親像無上帝。
There are people who have God in their life, who has God in their life, but it's like they don't have God in their
講緊
life.
你明唔明我意思喎？
Do you understand what I'm trying
有
to
人
say?
先主，
There are people who are Christians,
但係親像無先主。
but it seems like they're not Christians.
哇！呢個生命，
There's life, it's lifestyle.
這個無先主吧？
You would look at it and you would question if that person is truly a Christian or not.
呢個無先主，
A person is probably not a
因為
Christian
上帝根本冇喺中間。
because God is not there in his life.
Let God be God。
Let God be God.
呢個生命顯出呢個上帝出嚟，
Your lifestyle, your life will reveal that you have God in your
呢
life.
就 godly wife。
This is what we call a godly wife.
講下啲啊，
So, dear brothers,
如果近超嘅時陣
before you get married,
，Number one，
number one,
就係一個 godly woman。
look for a godly woman.
嗱，無即係呢啲唔係 godly woman，
Because if that person is not a godly
你
woman,
冇可能就做 godly wife，
then she will not become a godly
將來
wife.
冇可能就做 godly mother。
Then she will not become a godly mother.
要做幫襯啦。
May the Lord help us.
嗱，已經先做咧。
What if she's a Christian already?
Good news is，
The good news is
能夠 born again，born
we can be born again.
again，
Born again and again.
重新過嚟啦嗱。
And she will be changed,
因為上
transformed.
帝係有咱 second chance 嘅上帝。
Because God is a God of second
By the
chances.
grace of God，
By the grace of the Lord,
let God be God in your life。
let God be God in your life.
當這個 godly wife 變咗一個 godly mother。
From a godly wife, she will become a godly mother.
我嚟講 godly mother，
When we talk about godly
講到
mothers,
一個建立嘅關係。
it's about her relationship with her children.
你嚟看21、28節，
If you're to look at verses 21 to 28,
講講 Hannah 及 Samuel 嘅 relationship。
talks about the relationship of Hannah and Samuel.
我係做兩樣大字。
I'd like to show two things.
Number one，
The first,
Hannah 將家己留啲出嚟。
she chose to stay at home.
Number two，
Number two,
你將建立多到上帝聖殿嘅裏面。
she brought her child to the Lord's temple.
Let me explain to you。
Let me explain this
Number
to you.
one.
Number one,
Hannah 將家己留啲出嚟。
Hannah chose to stay at home.
你 Hannah 祈禱了以後，
After Hannah prayed,
伊到去咯，
she went home.
感謝主，
Thank the Lord.
伊多先啦。
She became pregnant.
伊有一個囝，
She had a child.
伊名叫做 Samuel。
She named her Samuel.
Samuel 意思是講上帝聽着咯，
It means the Lord had heard me.
上帝聽了我嘅祈禱
The
咯
Lord，heard my prayer.
呢是祈禱得嚟嘅家咯。
This is an answered prayer.
後來咧，全家就去聖殿獻感恩嘅時陣，
The whole family had to go to the temple to offer to fulfill their vows of.
哈拿冇俾去，
Hannah refused to go.
伊甲伊嘅丈夫講：
And she said to the husband,
等這個衰家斷了年以後，我要將這個衰家多交耶和華所在，好以永永遠遠企喺這個所在。
she said to her husband, after the boy is weaned, I'll take him and present him before the Lord, and he will live there forever, always.
伊嘅丈夫怎樣講呢？
And how did the husband
照
respond?
你意思夾吧，
Do what you seem best.
等你見他斷了年以後，關耶和華應驗耶話，於是好連人留啲家嚟，持這個家直到斷了年。
Do what seemed best to you, her husband Elkanah told her. Stay here until you have weaned him. Only may the Lord make good his word. So the woman stayed at home and nursed her son until she had weaned him.
我哋注意中間一句話。
I would like you to take note of a phrase there.
So the women stayed at home。
So the woman stayed at home.
有人講我，
There were people saying,
現今這個世界
today in our world,
是叫做老爸骨折嘅世界，
this world of absentee fathers,
老爸總是冇得出嚟。
a lot of times the fathers are not home.
It's true。
It's true. It's true.
我有三歲囝，
I have three
有
children.
陣有代志肯定去學堂，
Sometimes there's a need for me to go to school.
做咩 Parents Teacher Day 咯，
Parents, Teachers Day,
也最無上態度
different
嘅。
activities.
我差不多100%就係去啦，
100% of the time, most of the time, I will be there.
但是我可能這樣代志
But I noticed one thing.
現在老爸冇去，
A lot of fathers are not there.
有自老母去，
Most of the times, the mothers were
有
there.
陣老母講冇要去，
And sometimes the mother won't
冇
go.
波人去，
So nobody went.
結果是先師及見他去大丁，
So it's the child going up to the stage with their,
Lao
with,
bè
their
cháu
parent-
cái tờ lọ.
with the child. Where's the father?
老爸常常走冇去。
The father is always, most of the times, not there.
Husband,
Husband,
father，
fathers,
你記你這樣代志，
remember one thing.
你唔當常常走冇去，
Don't be absent.
佢見他大漢，
As a child grows up,
因為一個老爸嘅 image、老爸形象，
he or she needs the influence and the image of the father.
老爸常常冇得出嚟，
If the father is continuously absent,
囡仔嘅成長常常冇真好勢。
it will affect the growth and development of that child.
但是現今這個世界，
But in today's society,
無論唔那是老爸冇得
not
響，
only do we have absentee father,
連老母都冇得
we
講
have。absentee mothers.
我嗱講一句話，我望冇達咗你哋老母一個壓力，特別是吉少年嘅老母。
I'm hoping that this will not become a source of pressure, especially for those young mothers.
我愛你明白一件真重要嘅代志
I。want you to understand something very, very important.
你嘅囡仔細漢嘅時陣，
As if your child is still quite
伊
small,
實在真正需要你哋出嚟。
they really needed you to be at home.
同我諗有一句話，
There's a Chinese saying,
三歲電腦不集氣。
the 3 years time will determine what the person will be when he's 80.
你媽真哦，三歲嘅囡仔，
Imagine if you're a 3-year-old
差
child,
不多決定這囡仔不集你有嘅代志。
what the child is as a 3-year-old will determine who he will become
所以
when he's 80.
頭幾年嘅時間，
So the formative years,
對囡仔嘅成長是非常非常非常嘅重要。
it's very, very important for a child.
當囡仔未去讀冊以前，
Before the child goes to school,
老母啊，
dear mothers,
你就常常將你家己留啲出嚟。
please, as much as possible, spend time at home.
但是我大聲講一句話，
But I'm going to say this.
有時為咗經濟需要，
Sometimes because of financial
有時老母
consideration,
去外口作事，
because of economic considerations, we need to work. The mothers need to work.
這是另外一個 situation。
Of course, this is another
但你需
situation.
要用時間多啲出嚟過件啊
But the time when you're home, you need to spend that with your child.
，husband。
Husband,
Listen to me。
listen to me.
咱做丈夫，we call ourselves the leader of the church, head of the family, breadwinner。
As husbands, we call ourselves the leader of the family, the breadwinner.
所以做老爸嘅人，
So those who are fathers,
唔做變多。
don't be lazy.
然後做老爸，
If you're a father,
你就講骨嚟去追緊，
you have to work harder
好你嘅太太有通加咗時間留啲出嚟。
so that your wife will have more time to spend at home.
做老爸
As fathers,
就盡老爸嘅責任。
and you have to do your responsibilities
我
as a father.
我細件
I
啊，
have 3 children.
常常對我有一個戰爭，提到一個戰爭嘅，咁咧講一句話，
They always have this comment about me.
如果我爸爸真骨嚟去追緊，
They always say that my father is hardworking.
唔望你一個骨嚟追緊嘅老爸，
I hope that you will become hardworking fathers
好你嘅太太有法留啲出嚟。
so that your wife can stay at home, can remain at home.
太太，
Dear wives,
我唔係講你 forever 留啲出
of course, I'm
嚟，
not saying that you have to remain at home forever.
有一段時間，
Just for a period of
你見
time
他實在需要你，
when your child truly
就
needs
是
you.
before 佢去讀冊以前，
That's the time before the child goes to school.
我一個姊妹，
There's a sister
人嘅 PhD degree，
who had 2 PhD
一個
degrees,
是 education，
one in
一個
education
是 psychology。
and one in psychology.
人嘅 PhD degree，
2 PhD degrees.
近朝嘅時陣，
After she got married,
已經追緊，
she went to work.
丈夫佢追緊
The，husband went to work.
你多線以後，
After she
自
became
頭自己
pregnant,
家以後，
after she had her first child,
而兩種嘅都停起嚟
she stopped all her work.
，full time 就出嚟追
She
緊，
became a full-time
照
mother.
顧家己件啊。
She took care of her
有
child.
人對講曬人
And there are people saying, what a waste.
哇！你很狗咧
You're so brilliant.
，two PhD
You have
degree。
2 PhD degrees.
你講一句話，
And she said,
你講 no，
no,
我第一代 investment 就是我能嘅件啊，
my biggest investment are my children.
我將來第一代嘅成就就是我能嘅件啊。
And my greatest success will be my children.
預備啊，
Dear sisters,
唔通規日愛出去散啊！
don't wish to go out all the time.
下擺你所損失嘅物件，是你無通買到來嘅物件。
The things that you will lose while you're out there are things that you cannot buy back.
要出幫襯人，
May the Lord help
等你
us.
件啊慢慢大漢咯
As，your child begins to grow,
讀冊了咯，
as they finish their
還是家己好
education,
讀冊咯。
or they're starting their
你就
education,
開始對佢哋家己嘅 dream。
and then you can pursue your dream.
But before this，
But before this,
your mother
you're a mother.
要有責任，
You have your
唔
responsibilities.
當將你件啊幫佢出嚟，冇
Don't
人
leave
插
your
你，
child at home and nobody's taking care of
要
that
take the
child.
responsibility，
You take up that
要
responsibility.
做嘅幫襯人。
May the Lord help us.
你講，但是 too late 咯
But you say it's too late.
？No，never too late。
But it's never too late
Because we are Christian，
because we are Christians,
because we have hope，
because we have hope,
because we are born again。
because we are born again.
And 你 born again and again。
And you can be born again and again and again.
重新將你時間好照顧呢件啊，
Use the time that you have right now to take care of your
因為
children.
見啊將來是那一生第一代嘅成就，你知
Because
冇？
these children, these kids will become our greatest success.
我跟你講啊， 冇一個成就比你囡仔將來會成就好你歡喜啦。
There's no achievement greater than the success your children will meet. None will bring more
所以求
satisfaction.
上帝幫襯咱。
May the Lord help us.
你知這個哈娜
You know
同
Hannah,
撒母有什麼 relationship 不？
the relationship of Hannah and Samuel.
你這本聖經嘅裏，第 First Samuel 嘅裏面，
In 1 Samuel,
有兩個真教基督嘅人，
there are two people who are great prayer
這個就
warriors.
是哈娜。
First is
而家
Hannah.
chapter 1 和 chapter 2
Look at chapter 1 and chapter
是
2.
哈娜戰爭問題出名嘅基督。
There are recorded great prayers of Hannah.
另外一個人呢，
Another person,
叫做 Samuel，
the other person is called Samuel.
入二照就負責。
In chapter 12, verse
呢個
18,
是撒母一個戰爭出名嘅基督。
this was a very famous prayer made by
佢
Samuel.
祈禱了以後，
After he prayed,
佢定燉裏 say Amen。
the Lord said amen by bringing out thunder and rain
等於特別睇嘅時陣，
when he was
呢
retiring.
個猶太人講：
And he said to the people of Israel,
我的腳無停止推你基督。
I will never stop praying for you.
老母是基督嘅人，
His mother was a prayer warrior.
家是基督嘅家，
The son became prayerful.
呢個叫做 like mother like son。
It's called like mother, like son.
mother，
So mothers.
如果你對你見到多多影
So
響。
how much do you realize how much influence you have over your children?
Number one，
Number one,
將你家嘅留地出嚟。
she chose to stay at home.
Number two，
Number two,
將家多夠聖殿嚟。
she brought her child to the Lord's temple.
等下啦，即係見啦，即係撒母耳無嗰隻年以後，
When Samuel was weaned off from breastfeeding,
哈娜將撒母耳多夠聖殿嘅裏面。
so she brought Samuel to the temple.
以及以利講。
So she said to Eli,
你講 Pardon me, my Lord, as surely as you live, I am the woman who stood here beside you praying to the Lord. 要這就是我祈禱啦。
she was reminding Eli who she was. She was saying, I was the one who was praying here before the Lord.
I prayed for the child, and the Lord had granted me what I asked for of him. So now I give him to the Lord. For his whole life, he will be given over to the Lord. 呢將家獻賀上帝，
She offered her son for the Lord's use exclusively.
將佢家永遠多夠聖殿嘅裏面。
She brought him to the temple for him to live there always.
即係見啦，差不多是30歲嘅時陣，
He was probably 3 or 4 years old.
咱最父母嘅人哦，
As parents,
咱就知啊，老
we
公。
know
見啦30歲我是第一好鐵土嘅啦。
when a child is 3 or 4 years old, that's the time when we love to play with
呢
them
口走咯，
because they're starting to walk and move
個缺咯。
and they're quite cute.
你嗱食個背個面個魚魚嗰度黏黏
If
黏
they're
嘅，
plump, we like to pinch their cheeks.
你咁將你家多幾聖殿 forever and ever 噃，
And how can you offer that child to the temple forever?
要做幫襯啊！
May the Lord help us.
見啦是上帝所少數嘅，
Children are blessings from the Lord. They were given to us by the Lord.
我做牧師很最理哦，
I've been a pastor for so many
我
years.
是可能講大字
I've
哦。
noticed one thing.
你實好聽我講一句
I
話，
hope you listen carefully.
連家少年嘅日子唄，
For those younger couples,
很少以後，
after they get, younger people after they get married, they have children,
忽然間 disappear，
they suddenly disappear.
好無氣啦。
You don't see them anymore.
我知影開始見啦，真艱苦啦，我知
I
影。
know that it's quite difficult when you're starting.
我 understood。
I understand that
特別你見啦，every 2 hours 起來哦，
because the child will wake up every 2
跟
hours.
住父母是真萬大線啊。
And as parents, we are very tired.
Yeah, I understand.
I understand that.
或者一班牧師了遲見啦，直接搏殺落去吧，
One time, my wife dropped the child while she was breastfeeding.
燒幾線嘅啦
But。she was so
I
tired.
understand. I
I understand that.
但係到你見啦，已經唔是節氣冷氣咯，
But,
沙絲氣
but
咯。
when your child is 3 or 4 years old,
可能無嚟禮拜
how
堂。
come you don't come back to the church?
Where they are going?
Where are you going?
Something wrong.
There's something wrong there.
Let me tell you.
Let me tell you,
見啦是上帝所少數嘅產業，
children are treasures being given to us by the
是
Lord.
上帝嘅產業，唔是你嘅產業。
They are treasures. They belong to the Lord. They don't belong to you.
你的確需要將上帝嘅產業多到上帝裏面。
And you have to bring back God's treasure and God's gift back to Him.
見啦是你嘅 blessing，
They are blessings from the Lord.
但係唔得我見啦就做你嘅 curse。
But they shouldn't become your curse.
有見啦咯，
You have children.
未記得有主咯。
You forget all about the
我
Lord.
會好黑地幫你見啦嘅成就。
All your life, all your attention is placed upon that child.
見啦唔是你嘅上帝，
The child is not your God.
見到就上帝好呢個禮物啦。
Children are gifts from the Lord.
你是愛禮物，
You want the gift,
還是愛生禮物嘅人
or do you want the giver of the gift?
？This is our problem.
That is our problem.
咱總是 looking for the gift, we forget the giver.
We often look just for the gift and we forget about the
但
giver.
係哈南唔是啊
But，Hannah wasn't like that.
呢種見到多高上帝頭
She。brought the child to the Lord.
耶穌12歲嘅時陣，
When Jesus was 12 years old,
伊甲呢個父母講：
he told his parents,
我咁唔應該以上帝天俾上帝大事做笑臉啊！
shouldn't I be here going about my father's business?
12歲嘅見啊，
12-year-old.
伊就有上帝大事最重要。
He knew that it's much more important to do his father's business, God's work.
呢是咱 parent 嘅責任。
That is the responsibility of us as
好
parents.
你好你見啊，就有什麼較重要？
For your child to know what is more
唔
important.
是你，是你嘅上帝。
It's not you, but God.
你就 put God first in your life of your children。
Put God first in your life and in the lives of your
你
children.
記得這樣大事，
Remember one thing,
無論你愛還是無愛，
whether you like it or
總
not,
有一日
one day
你嘅家得家離開你。
your child will depart from you,
特別現今這個世界，
especially in today's world.
有時去作息，
Sometimes they go out to work.
飛去加拿大，
They fly to other
飛去
countries,
美國，
fly to the
飛
United
去
States
紐
or
西
Canada
蘭，
or New
飛
Zealand.
來飛去，
They'll
飛
just
來
fly off
飛去，
somewhere.
呢就少離開你啦。
They will depart from you.
我咪就問到我，
I'm going to ask you one thing.
你嘅見啊 before 離開你以前，
Before your child departs from you,
你見啊認不上帝未？
are they believers of the
你
Lord?
見啊有先過上帝未？
Do they know how to trust the Lord?
呢個重要，你知冇
That's？very important.
有時咱唔敢將見啊放出去，
Sometimes we dare not let go of our
因為
child
呢個見啊唔認不上帝。
because that child has yet to come to know the
你
Lord.
嗱見啊認不上帝，
If a child is a
有
believer already
trusting God，
and you trust God,
你放出去，
you let go.
上帝照顧伊。
God will take care of that
我
child.
記得教會一個姊妹，
I remember there was a sister in the
呢
church.
見啊真特別，真特別。
That child is very unique.
差不多冇寫參加下卡 Sunday School 嘅聚會，
She,
差不
the
多冇
child
寫參
does
加，
not join Sunday school very
因為
much
切波起嘅時陣，
because when he was 7 or 8,
伊頭嗰個父母講一句話，
parents always say one thing:
我冇不去下卡，
I don't want to go down.
我係去頂卡，
I just like to
我
join
不
the
聽
adult
我不
worship.
聽牧師講
I
道，
like to listen to the pastor
切
speak.
波起嗰個又知見
7 or
啦。
8-year-old.
所以我特特嗰度伊及啲男母姐姐姐咧
So I often see that child seated with the mother or the father.
當我畢業，新加坡就因為托佢追 school 啦，
And before the child graduated from high school, he or she became a scholar in Singapore.
有新加坡嘅第一讀大學，如果冇畢，
And Singapore wanted the child to study there, but the child refused
因為美國一個高高嘅大學請叻伊嘅。
because there was a bigger or better college offered from the United
呢
States.
件啊，雖然就離佢父母嘅鼻頭，
So that child is far away from the parent from his young age.
或者件啊，到今日都冇改變，
But that child never changed.
對上帝聽永遠未改變。
The love of the child towards the Lord never changed.
你知咩啊？
Dear brothers and sisters,
唔係將你家己留啲出嚟，
don't just leave yourself at home.
將件啊多到上帝聖所裏面，
Bring the child to the Lord's temple
和上帝查出伊天定嘅留俾。
so that the child will come to know the Lord and our God will become his heavenly Father.
呢度放心啦啦，
You need to let go
但是 forever ever 你未放心，
because you will never let go if you don't bring the child to the
所以
Lord.
求上帝幫助你。
May the Lord help us.
你記得敬虔嘅女主，會查出敬虔嘅太太；
Only a godly woman can become a godly wife.
敬虔嘅太太查出敬虔嘅
And
老
only
母。
a godly wife can become a godly mother.
太太及老母是先婚嘅門對，
Being a wife and a mother refers to a woman's status,
敬虔嘅女主是生命嘅門
but
對。
while being a godly one is about how she lives her life.
所以你對求你嘅生命
So look after your life, seek after your life,
，godly life，
to seek a godly
你
life,
嘅 godly wife，
to become a godly wife,
godly woman。
to be a godly woman.
May God bless us.
May God bless us.
Can I have some-